Hello and welcome back to Grooving and Giving an Early Retirement. This is Radhika. Thank you for joining me today. I early retired during the pandemic to pursue my passions, and one of my passions is traveling. I'm here in northern Vietnam in the Ninh Binh province at Tam Coc, going down the river.
But in today's video, I am not talking about Vietnam. I am talking about Chile's must-see, San Pedro de Atacama. I have traveled to 70 countries and many countries several times. I have been to places where I've thought to myself, I don't think I need to go back there. It's like a one and done. But San Pedro de Atacama is not like that at all. It is absolutely spectacular and certainly deserves your time the first time around and maybe even more times. So what's all the hubbub about? Let's check it out in this episode of Chile's must-see, San Pedro de Atacama. Vamos! Desierto de Atacama, or the Atacama Desert, is a desert plateau in the northern part of Chile. It is vast and absolutely massive. It is the driest desert in the world, the driest non-polar desert in the world, and the second driest overall. It receives the least amount of precipitations, less than the polar deserts do. And this area has been used as an experimentation site for Mars expedition simulations because it looks like the Martian environment. I mean, this is super cool. You're not just going to San Pedro de Atacama, you're going to Mars. Okay, so most people will come to Chile, they will connect in and out of Santiago, and they will go on to their destinations. A lot of people go to southern Patagonia, a lot of people go to Easter Island. Northern Patagonia is also a destination, and then you will come up to San Pedro de Atacama. And depending on the amount of time you have for your vacation, you may decide where you're going, and you may only have time for that destination. South America is a very, very long continent. We definitely felt that. So we spent 46 days in Argentina and 36 days in Chile, and we zigzagged our way up the continent. And we still didn't feel like we had enough time. Now, we had been on an expedition cruise to Antarctica, separate video. And so we were already in Ushuaia and we were making our way up the continent. We started this journey in March. And so we were beating the winter season by zigzagging up the continent. If you don't have that kind of time, right, like 82 days to zigzag up South America, you're obviously going to be dividing your time between different areas of Chile. This is just my opinion, but I will tell you, San Pedro de Atacama ranks really high up there with southern Patagonia. And I will tell you that if I had to go back to Patagonia, which I absolutely will one day, I loved Patagonia, I would probably go back to Patagonia in Argentina. Watch my episode, the Southern Patagonia Showdown, Argentina versus Chile, to know why I say what I say. I would rank, like I said, San Pedro de Atacama on the highest end, and I definitely would go back there again in a heartbeat. Okay, now what got us to San Pedro de Atacama? Work. My husband is a travel photographer, and after the pandemic, he was rebuilding his portfolio. He still is rebuilding his portfolio. You know, travel photography is not a glamour job. Let me just tell you that right now. And the pandemic definitely did a number on his business. So he had to rebuild his business and is still doing so. And he's got an enormous playlist on South America. I will link that for you. If you like any of his pictures, they are for sale, so you can contact him directly. So the reason we were there in San Pedro de Atacama was because of his work and his portfolio building. It was obviously a spectacular area, and I was happy to be on this South America portfolio building expedition, let's call it. Now, all the pictures in this video are from my Samsung Galaxy phone. It's like a really old phone. So none of this is like special stuff, but his pictures, absolutely stunning and spectacular. So like I said, I'm going to put the link for his South America playlist for your viewing pleasure. Before I continue, please remember to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. Ding, ding, ding. You know the drill. All right, back to San Pedro de Atacama. We flew to San Pedro de Atacama from Santiago. So we thought a better use of our time was to take a 2-hour flight. And the cost was somewhere around 80 to 100 US dollars for us. We landed at the Calama airport and we rented a car. The car cost us $250 for the car, as well as gas for the 5 days that we were there in San Pedro de Atacama. I absolutely believe that renting a car is like the best way to see this area. And given, again, that we tend to linger because we're waiting for a particular shot, that a car is literally the only option for us. You can certainly do tours, but tours do add up. And after a while, they can get a bit costly. You're running around with other people. And like I said, we have to linger because John is photographing and he's looking for particular things in his photographs. So for us, car rental was literally the only way to go. Now, if you do have, just a little quick sidebar, if you are renting a car, please make sure that your flight is getting there in advance of the rental cars counters closing down. We got lucky. We got there just in the nick of time. Now, there is a shuttle bus that goes from the Calama airport to San Pedro de Atacama. And so if you miss that window to rent your car, you're going to have to go to San Pedro de Atacama and come back the next day to rent your car. Okay. As I said, San Pedro de Atacama is in the desert, and you feel it. You feel it in terms of the air. It is dry. You feel it in terms of the sun, intense. You feel it in the town. Honestly, you feel like you're in a movie set. The town has dirt roads. The houses that you see are built for being in the desert. So you definitely feel like you're in the desert. One other thing that I will say is that it is at an elevation. So about 2,400 meters or 8,000 feet. If you're not accustomed to being at elevation, just make sure that you give yourself enough time to acclimatize to the altitude of San Pedro de Atacama. Now, if you were to Google the top 10 things to do in San Pedro de Atacama, you would, of course, get a list. So what I'm going to do is share with you our itinerary for 4 days that we were there. We decided to not necessarily visit every single thing that came up on the list because that's not what slow travel is all about. It's about the experience, the journey. So let's start with day 1, April 21st. On April 21st, we visited Valle de la Luna. That is like the number one thing, and it is obviously the must-see thing of San Pedro de Atacama. Google will tell you, or TripAdvisor, whatever it is, it will say the following: explore lunar-like landscapes, salt formations, and sand dunes, ideally at sunset for breathtaking views. They're not wrong. This place is absolutely a must-see, and that description is right. It is 13 kilometers from San Pedro de Atacama, but it is a whole different world of a place to be, and the landscape truly is Mars-like. And frankly, folks, I don't care what you use to take pictures, you will not get a single bad picture in this entire area. See it during the day. It opens at 8:30 in the morning, so get out there and visit all the places. Now, you buy your ticket, and I believe the ticket was 10,800 pesos, and I think it still is today for a general admission. Seniors, children, and students have a lower fare or a lower fee. Now, in the loop, it'll kind of direct you to where you need to go. We somehow landed up going to Duna Mayor first and doing that loop. I'm guessing it had to do with the light in the park at that time. Duna Mayor was absolutely spectacular. Like I said, it's a loop. Make sure you have enough water, a sunscreen, the hat, the whole shebang of being in a desert. The workers there have like these shelters built because if they didn't, it would be quite crazy and intense to stand out there. Now, after you're done with Duna Mayor, which is an enormous dune that you see and that you're walking on, take your time, take your pictures. Like I said, bring a hat because you're not going to come back here again. So you want to make sure that you've really absorbed that feeling of being on Duna Mayor. After the Duna Mayor loop, we headed to Las Tres Marias, which is a sculpture that has been formed out of wind and rain erosion. And honestly, it feels like somebody chiseled these structures, but nope. This is like a natural form sculpture. It is formed of dirt and clay, but boy, it looks absolutely spectacular. That's the name, right? Then you can also visit another little, what they have, like a little mining setup with the mining machinery and equipment called Mina Vitoria. It's really kind of small, but well worth your visit. And again, why not? You're there. Once you are down from the money from seeing Mina Vitoria, you can head to another viewpoint called Mirador Achaches. Now, I'm not sure again, like I said, what order we were supposed to go to in these places or to these places. We just kind of did our thing, which is what we tend to do. We were at the Mirador at 1:30 in the afternoon, and it was an intense heat of a day. So just make sure that you accommodate for that. This area reminded me of Bryce Canyon, the redness of it all and the designs in the dunes. So it's a really spectacular place. And like I said, if you're in this area, the other thing I should say is that you will get a view of the volcano Likan Kabur. And that's like your big volcano of this area. So linger, take pictures, make sure you have enough water. And just as a note, as I'm giving you my timestamps, some of these timestamps are quite like long, and that's because we linger. We're waiting for something to happen to take a particular photo. Well, my husband is. So we were at Valle de la Luna from 9 a.m. in the morning till 3 p.m. We took our lunch and we ate it there. It can be a long day. Obviously, if you're doing a tour, the tour company will set your itinerary for you. Now, after we were done at Valle de la Luna, we later that day headed to Mirador de Cari or Piedra del Coyote, same thing. It's a viewpoint, and to see the sunset. So we got there around 5 p.m. or so, 5:15 p.m. or so to see the sunset. It is spectacular. The moon was over the mountains. The day had already been so spectacular. You thought it couldn't get better, but it did. It keeps getting better and better. So it was absolutely breathtaking. You park your car, you walk up to the viewing area, and you get to see the ravine, the Cordillera de la Sal ravine, and you get to see all the clay mountains. The sun, when it's setting, is so beautiful on all the different clay cliffs. And it's hitting these cliffs at just like the right angle to where it is just glowing. It is absolutely fantastic. So you want to make sure that you're set up to be there for sunset and to be able to take all your pictures. Around 6 o'clock, your shadows start to get really long. So that's how you know it's like this golden light. It is the golden hour. And it's warm, it's glowy. We were lucky to have little wisps in our clouds. So that was absolutely fantastic. And the light made the mountain range look pink. We stayed there till about 6:30, and absolutely a wonderful end to an already wonderful day. So first day, success. Chalk that up. All right, let's move to day 2. So this was a visit to Salar de Aguas Caliente, also called Piedras Rojas, and the Altiplanic Lagoons. At least that was the plan. We bought our tickets online, so you kind of make reservations. And the key and most important thing about this is that you have to pick up the tickets in the town of Soquer. We watched this on 2 other videos. Not a lot of videos address this. We only found it in 2 other places. And so that was so fortunate for us that we found that information online. I will link those videos in my description below. If you've forgotten to buy your tickets, just know the cell phone coverage out there is like 0. So if you're trying to buy your tickets online, you're not going to be able to do it for that day online, even if you're able to get cell coverage. But you can go to this, it's like a trailer. And you can go and buy it for the day of in person, not online. So there's a little bit of advanced planning there, and make sure that you are well prepared to get there and to be able to have a good experience. The other thing that's really cool about this is that you will cross Tropic of Capricorn. I mean, I don't know. I'm a huge nerd about this kind of stuff. I have crossed the Tropic of Capricorn several times. I did it in Namibia, and in Namibia, you're at the southern part of the African continent, and you feel like, oh yeah, I'm so far south. And you're doing this here in Chile, in the northern part of Chile. That just tells you how long a continent South America is. And, it kind of makes you stop and wonder how sailors in the olden days, how much work they had to sail around the continent. This is pre-Panama Canal, obviously. So, but these are the kind of things that go through my mind. Anyway, back to Piedras Rojas. So the Piedras Rojas are exactly what they say. It's red rocks. Now, it is a sort of a guided pathway or guided tour, and they'll give you like a little orientation that tells you which way you got to go. But I mean, it's a pathway that has rocks on the side, so it's not like you're gonna go off. And they are employees there from the Comunidad de Soquer that are, they are telling you what, like if you step out of bounds, you're not supposed to just walk anywhere you feel like it. There are places you are allowed to walk. Again, they're protecting that environment. So be mindful of that as well. So we spent quite a lot of time out there. Again, John was photographing, and the rocks, Piedras Rojas, they look so red compared to the turquoise green, sea green water and the mountain range. The scenery is spectacular and it's breathtaking. And, if you're not part of a tour and you're just out there by yourself, sometimes you might be like two of very few people out there. Of course, the tours come. We were there, tours came, tours went, and we were still there because we were photographing and we really wanted to take our time. Well, John wanted to take all his time because, again, you're not coming back here. It is hard to get out there. So absorb, indulge even, let's say, spend your time very wisely. Okay, now the next thing that you want to visit as part of this is the lagunas, the Miscanti and Miniques lagunas. Unfortunately for us, they were closed. It was snowing in April. This is late April, and yet it was snowing. And so the roads to get there the road was closed, and so we couldn't get there. But not a problem. See, this is the thing about not making something so big that if you don't see it, you'll feel disappointed. You just pivot. You pivot, you move on, and you keep going. And that's what we did. So we kept going on Route 23. There was no need to stop. Like the day was ours, and we could keep going. And so we went on to the Mirador hacia los volcanos, where you get the views of the other Andean volcanoes. And then at Pequeña Salina de Fernando, the scenery changes. There's shrubbery everywhere. There are these little yellow shrubbery looking plants, which are really cool. And you get to see quite a lot of the guanacos and vicuñas, which are all over the San Pedro de Atacama desert plain. So absolutely stunning. And oh yes, and we saw some massive ostriches. I mean, picture perfect. They were right in front of the volcano, in front of this vast scenery. So absolutely spectacular. I mean, you couldn't write this better, frankly. When you're here and the views are just so stunning and they seem endless and they're magnificent and they are endless and they just go on. You literally can stop in the middle of the road at this point and just take pictures. There's like nobody there. It was that cool. So we spent approximately 5 hours, not counting the time that it took us to drive out there. So not counting the drive time. And we gave ourselves plenty of time. Now, I also spent a lot of time at the Tropic of Capricorn sign taking photos because, I mean, again, like I said, super cool. After we were done here, we headed back and we went to Laguna Chaxa, Los Flamencos Reserve. Absolutely a must do in this area. It is the spot for all the different species of flamingos in the Atacama salt flat. So obviously you want to do this. The cost of the tickets was, I think, 12,000 pesos for the both of us. So, somewhere around $13. Not very expensive. And it's not very big, by the way. It's not a very big area. Sidebar. This place only took cash. A lot of places only take cash. So absolutely make sure that you've got enough cash to pay for tickets and to pay even for parking or whatever it might be. Not a lot of places take credit cards. So just know that. This place, the salt, it's the Salar de Atacama, and it's not flat. So it's when you're walking on it, you can hear the crunch. It's kind of like you're walking on like stones or rocks or pebbles. It's really stunning, not very big, but the important thing is that you get to see all the flamingos. The flamingos are just eating. There is also a little pool for the brine for the shrimp. But you're there for the flamingos. We know that. And you get to see them in just having a day of it. They're resting, they're eating. You know, flamingos are busy. They're always busy. The thing that's really spectacular is when you see them fly. So we spent a solid 3 hours at this place because John was trying to get photographs of the flamingos in flight. And he wanted them right in front of the range behind this area, the range at this area. So we were there for 3 hours. I absolutely can say that that's probably not the amount of time that's required, but we spent that much time there. So as was the case before, around 5:30, the shadows get long, the light gets very glowy and golden. So it is really a beautiful place for the evening time. That's really it's good to be there in the evening. Okay, that was day 2 and spectacular. Now I've got day 3 and day 4, but I'm going to put that in a separate video. So hopefully you'll come back for Chile's must-see San Pedro de Atacama part 2. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. Ding, ding, ding. I left my career in the middle of the pandemic to focus on my passions. And boy, oh boy, am I having a great time. Thank you so much for watching. Adios. I'll see you on part 2.